Update. Am I the a-hole for not taking my wife's side and siding with my parents? Background. My wife, 28 female and I, 30 male, as well as my brother and his wife, went to visit our parents as we haven't seen them in a while. My parents, 57, had a box of $300 ginseng in the fridge to be given as a gift for their close friend's wedding anniversary tomorrow. We know this because it came up in conversation during lunch. They also told us to help ourselves to anything in the fridge, but to not touch the ginseng for obvious reasons. The problem came when a few hours later, my parents called us in a panic, saying that they couldn't find the ginseng and if anyone saw it. I didn't like it, and at first I thought they just misplaced it somewhere. However, they insisted that they both agreed to not moving it out of the fridge drawer for that exact reason. All of us denied taking it, and the conversation got more heated when my father started yelling that someone must have taken it since it only went missing when we came to visit. All of us continued to deny taking it, with my wife being really quiet, and my father said that if it doesn't turn up soon, he'd have to have everyone's belongings checked. That was when my wife admitted that she took it. Apparently, it was some popular brand that my in-laws mentioned, and she wanted to give it to them, and she thought that no one would notice since it was in an inconspicuous place in the fridge. My mother-in-law later called and said my parents overreacted over such an inconsequential thing and screamed at me that I was an a-hole for not defending my wife. The thing is, in my opinion, it wasn't a small thing. My wife literally stole hundreds of dollars from my parents and tried to lie her way out of it. While I agree that my parents shouldn't have started yelling and accusing us, I feel like my wife was in the wrong for taking the ginseng in the first place. This situation has caused a lot of friction, and we haven't been speaking since coming home. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Your wife is a thief that literally stole something of high value from your parents. She thought that no one would notice since it was in an inconspicuous place in the fridge. She is literally lying. As you mentioned, this topic was brought up during lunch, that it was an expensive gift, not supposed to be touched. My mother-in-law later called and said my parents overreacted over such an inconsequential thing and screamed at me that I was an a-hole for not defending my wife. They are the a-holes for enabling this lying and stealing behavior. Not just that, but mother-in-law was the intended recipient of the stolen goods. It's not a surprise she would scream at Opie for getting in the way of her thieving daughter stealing for her benefit. This didn't happen in a vacuum. Oh yeah, in-law is just angry to lose the very expensive item. Not a-hole, and sheesh. I don't even know how Opie should address this. This is a big betrayal and a crime, but it must be addressed. Seriously, would you be comfortable living with such a person? She's clearly untrustworthy and selfish to the point of being pathological. Your wife literally stole a $300 item from your parents, and her and mother-in-law Maggie got caught. Honestly, if my husband did that, I'd be having a long think about continuing the marriage. I wouldn't even need to think about it. Instant divorce. If she's willing to lie over a box of ginseng for such selfish reasons, she clearly doesn't love or respect me or my family, and I'd never be able to trust her about anything again. I wonder what else little Miss Sticky Fingers has helped herself to in other people's homes. Yeah, it was odd to me that parents were babysitting this item since they got there. I thought it would turn out the wife moved it, and they were being really precious about it, and maybe she touched it. Now I wonder if wife isn't always shopping around when she visits his family. 100%. Honestly, it would have me rethinking the marriage, since she's revealed herself to be a liar and a thief, and I don't blame your parents for yelling. Now for the update. After making the post, I thought a lot more about the situation. I realized after reading the comments that this indeed wasn't a one-time situation. Things in our house like face creams, kitchen utensils, and even household tools would go missing, and I would just believe my wife's excuses. I feel like such an idiot for not realizing sooner, and honestly can't believe she took advantage of my trust like that. I guess a part of me refused to believe the truth, which was how she thought she could get away with it this time. When I brought up divorce, she immediately threatened to call the police to arrest me for DV when I had never laid a hand on her like that, so that I couldn't ever find a job again. So needless to say, my lawyer is being called and this marriage will be over very soon. I have also apologized to my parents for all this awful behavior, and they have accepted. To be honest, this is probably the best ending, and I'm kind of glad the situation happened before it went on any longer. I'm incredibly done with my hopefully soon ex-wife at her side of the family, whose mother called me again yesterday entirely remorseless and called me a childish mommy's boy. Thank you everyone for all the help and comments. Also, to clarify a few things, from what I'm aware, mother-in-law was aware of my wife's actions, especially since she had done this sort of thing before. Taking things from our house to give to them, I didn't see anything wrong with it since neither of them like my parents. And since it was going to be a short visit, like 2-hour stops, she thought no one was going to notice the missing ginseng before we left. I want a divorce. I'm going to call the police and tell them that you abused me. And now I'm gonna divorce faster. Well, this is coming from a child who stole a $300 gift right out of the fridge. Not the brightest apple in the bunch. Like many commenters on the original post, I thought this couldn't be the first occasion, since the dishonesty was so brazen and mother-in-law's defense so shameless. Hope you will be well rid of her. I hope the divorce goes more smoothly than it started out. Nope, it won't. She will make a whole lot of drama out of it. She's a pathological liar and a kleptomaniac. What a terrible person. I had a friend like this back in high school. Would just steal things from my house and act like it's no big deal. Mostly small things like stuffed animals, mechanical pencils, erasers, knickknacks. I finally had enough though when she stole some jewelry that my grandma gave me that I told her was important to me. She claimed she didn't steal them, but then wore them to school the next day. I ripped it off her neck and we stopped being friends. She thought no one was going to notice the $300 wedding gift that they literally had just talked about with them. That sounds like the kind of excuse that a little kid makes when they get caught sneaking food from the pantry. Sounds like the sort of behavior had been enabled by her mother her whole life. She probably rarely faced actual consequences for it. My theory is that she was actually taught to do this by her parents. Stealing is bad unless you're doing it for your parents. Also, stealing for us is how you earn our love. Next story. Am I the a-hole for ignoring my ex-husband's new wife? I was married 21 years and have 3 children. When my youngest was 14 months old, I discovered my husband was cheating. I was devastated and wanted to try and save our marriage. So I asked him to go to therapy so we could save the marriage. He told me he didn't want to save the marriage. 3 days later, he moved out. 3 years later, I filed for divorce. He was living with a woman he had an affair with, so I was given physical custody of my 3 children. He was to arrange with my older 2 kids directly for visitation. My older 2 were 14 years and 16 years old, while my youngest was around 3. We agreed on a schedule, alternating holidays, and he would get her every other weekend. From the start, he never kept this arrangement. One weekend here, couple months later, another weekend. His hours changed where he worked, so I agreed to change the arrangement. All I asked was for him to give me 48 hours notice when he wanted to get her. He would text me at 11 p.m. Friday and ask to get her at 7 a.m. Saturday. I would not agree to this because most of the time I had plans already. In the next few years, he would see her like 3 times a year. Then fast forward to 3 years ago, he completely stopped getting her. No reason, no text, nothing. He never even calls or texts on her birthday. A week ago, his new wife texts me and asks if her daughter, who is his daughter and my daughter's half-sister, can call my daughter. I have yet to respond. He now has 2 other children with this woman and I've met her like 3 times. I feel really angry about her contacting me when my ex hasn't said a word to me or his 3 children in 3 years. He has not spoken, called, texted my 2 older kids since the day he left. I feel like he has put no effort into contacting my kids. I'm angry that my youngest has had to grow up without a father, but I don't want him to come in and out of her life and continue to be a flake. I feel like he should have contacted me. What would I do? Am I the a-hole for not responding and ignoring his wife? Not the a-hole. Add another vote to the ignore pile. Shifting co-parenting to a non-parent is not something that you should accept. It's one thing if everyone has sat down and the new spouse has been added to the co-parenting dynamic. But this is him just being a crappy dad. There's nothing but problems and bull dookie for you if you engage with this person. Deal with the kid's dad and only the dad, for your daughter's sake. When she's old enough to make her own decisions and decide if she wants to deal with a step-parent or half-siblings, then the new wife can deal with her directly. I get not wanting to cut her off from siblings, but her dad pretty much abandoned her, so it's not like she's close to them. Agreed. Also, having half-sister who gets her dad 24/7, talking to the daughter who has been practically abandoned by said father, may not be in your daughter's best interest. It's hard to have half-siblings talk about the wonderful things they do with their absent parent. The fact that her half-sister is more interested in her than her own father is so sad. Yes, this is true. Even when my two older kids talk about their father, my youngest gets upset because she has had a totally different experience with her father. Block her and contact a therapist for you and your children for not letting their sick game get all of you. Make sure to note everything that happened the past 3 years, him not coming, etc., and continue for the future just in case. You are a wonderful mom, and even if it's hard, your kids and yourself are gonna be okay. There's a lot of us who grew up with sperm donors who had abandoned us for their new family. But with good support, it's possible to move on. So focus on yourself, build a happy home, heal and move on. Time to find a real one for you. P.S. Contact your lawyer about this abandonment. My ex did this to my daughter. He even convinced his entire family, including his stepsisters who were my best friends for years, that I kept her from him. He died when my daughter was 15. And she hadn't seen him since the age of 3. Good riddance. Last story. Am I the a-hole for making my partner choose between me and his mom? I, female 34, have been with my boyfriend, male 38, for the past 3 years. He has a crazy ex, Jane. They have been together on and off since they were 15. Last time they broke up was about 5 years ago, when he made a point to both families that it was final. Both his mom and dad consider her to be a family friend. She lives 5-minute walk from their house. From the first day, his mom made known to everyone, especially me, that she doesn't approve. She has also invited Jane to every family gathering, despite him asking her not to. Together with Jane, his mom would make comments at my expense. I know he loves his mom, and I would never disrespect her in her home, so I always took the jab silently. She would also give Jane a spare key to his place, and more than once, he came home to find her in his bed. One of the reasons I insist on having my own place is I'm not comfortable with his family, mom, having a spare key to a place I live in. There have been numerous instances where both would drive me to the point of tears. And on more than one occasion when I left the event early because of it, to his credit he always left with me, and his mom always blamed me for dragging him away. My breaking point was last month, at his birthday dinner at his family home, when his mom had one of his nephews bring me a cookie that had coffee in it. I'm allergic, severely, and his family knows. I was lucky enough to notice before I swallowed a bit and spit it out. Still, I had to use my EpiPen. His mom kept saying that I should go home and rest because I was dampening the mood. He said if I left, so will he. Then I said that I can't do it anymore. I can't put up with the comments and Jane being pushed in his lap at every chance, but that I can't deal with them essentially trying to poison me. His mom said it was an accident, but I didn't believe it, and said that I can't be with him as long as his family is part of his life, since they enable the behavior. He said goodbye to them, and we left. A couple of days later, he told me his mom admitted that the cookie thing was deliberate, but that they didn't think it was as severe as I claimed. That she and Jane just didn't want me there. His dad, brothers, and sister have all come to visit and apologized for their part, so we agreed to start fresh. Last weekend, we had a barbecue over at my place, and we invited them all. His dad and his sister both asked if his mom can come. My boyfriend said he doesn't want her there, but as it was my house, it was my call. I said I'm sorry, but she just isn't welcomed. His family and friends have been divided now. Some say I'm within my right, and others are saying I'm an a-hole because I'm not just making him choose between his mom and me, but also all of them. I said I never asked them to choose and pointed out his mom still hasn't apologized to me. But they say by inviting them and not her, I'm essentially forcing a choice. So am I an a-hole? Mom tried to kill you. He needs to go no contact for a while to work on your relationship. If he doesn't, you will never be happy as mom will never change. Leave if he doesn't. I'm flabbergasted by the blasé way in which Mom admitted to trying to kill her because she and Jane didn't want her there. What the actual heck is anyone in his family thinking downplaying that insanity? Also, the day my mom aids a stalker/trespasser with gaining access to my home is the day that I stop allowing her any access to my life. If he isn't willing to go full no contact and stop this nonsense, then end this relationship, Opie, before they kill you or make you lose your sanity. Right? I would be pressing charges. This is literally attempted murder. Opie, you are not the a-hole. And if your boyfriend isn't on board going no contact with his mother after she tried to kill you, you need to leave him in the dust. I can't even believe the audacity. His mother tried to end you. If he loves you, that should be reason enough for him to go no contact with her and anyone defending her. In fact, why haven't you filed a police report? Change the locks, make sure his mother never has a key, and make it clear she's not welcome where you are. Not the a-hole. The irony of it all is, he is a cop, his dad was a cop, and one of his brothers is also a cop. We did briefly discuss filing charges, but I feel like that would be it for his relationship with his family and just don't want to cost him that. Also, he has changed the lock several times. However, a couple years back, he had a really rough time with dealing with something that happened at work, and his family insisted on a key so they can come in and check on him if he goes down the dark hole again. He's 38, and his mommy still pushes him around? He's not worth it. Not the a-hole.